Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to answer the question that not only trans folks themselves ask me, but also cis people ask me quite a bit. And that is the question of why do trans women, especially older trans women, tend to sexualize themselves. For some reason, this is a big question for a lot of people. So I'm going to go ahead and give some of you an idea, because I have seen a lot of trans women who struggle with this because they feel a lot of shame and guilt for expressing themselves in more sexual and sensual way. So for starters, what does it mean when a person sexualizes themselves? Well, there's going to be a multitude of definitions on what it means to sexualize yourself. I'm going to give you my idea of what I think when it comes to sexualizing yourself. To me, sexualizing yourself essentially is an individual, in this case, a trans woman, and a person who is feeling sexual and sexy and sensual about themselves. And as a result, they externalize and express that part of themselves. They show up in a world looking sexual and sensual, either through the ways they carry themselves, or the ways they talk, or maybe it is through the ways that they present themselves in a learning way. And the definition in terms of what constitutes sexy is really up for an individual to define. Some people may look at what I'm wearing right now, a kind of a low cut, a black dress, red lipstick, long earrings, and say, well, you're sexualizing yourself, or you're looking sexy and alluring. Some people may think that I look classy, graceful, beautiful. So it's really kind of subjective and up for each individual to interpret. Generally speaking, in my experience, when people ask me, why do trans women sexualize themselves? And when I ask them, well, give me an example of what you mean, oftentimes there is a pattern to an example. An example usually is a trans woman that is openly putting forward a photograph, selfies of herself on social media, or usually shows up in the world out there in a community wearing something that is provocative, something that is sexy, maybe a very low cut cleavage, perhaps a short mini skirt, other clothing items that we socially, culturally tied to sexiness, glittery dresses, body contouring, body fitted type of dresses, fishnet stockings, high heels. That's usually what comes to people's mind. So again, what is sexy and what is sexualizing yourself is going to be different, obviously very, very subjective matter, but I think we all at least can fall into some form of an idea here that we're talking about. So why do trans women tend to sexualize themselves? First, I want to say that why not sexualize yourself? And I say that because, first and foremost, what kind of an individual on this planet that once they start to feel really good about their physicality, they start really feeling good and confident about their body, especially specifically, whether it is particular body parts, their particular weight, maybe it is the way their face has changed, maybe they had rhinoplasty, a nose job, and suddenly their face looks delicate and beautiful the way you imagine it to be. What type of individual, in other words, on this planet that starts to feel really good about themselves isn't also going to be enamored by an image they're going to see in a mirror? At least temporarily enamored by how good they look, especially if there is a point of feeling like you don't look good or being very self-critical about yourself, and then reaching a point when you really like where you're at and you really like yourself. Sure, of course, there's some individuals who are not going to feel enamored with themselves, but I think by far and large, pretty much we can agree anybody will. Why? Because this is normal. This is natural. It's natural for us as human beings when we like ourselves to become enamored by ourselves. And if you apply the same concept to trans women, you start thinking about individuals who have lived a duration of their lives where a lot of you really hated your bodies, really disliked the form and shape of your body, really disliked everything about it, even to a larger degree than a cis person may dislike some aspects about themselves, because all of those attributes were specifically very incongruent with your core gender identity. And so for anybody to look in the mirror and see, for example, for any cis person to look in the mirror and see, for example, a nose that they think is too large, is going to make them feel uncomfortable and not like themselves. But for any person struggling with dysphoria, for any of you to look in the mirror and to see a face that is gendered as a man in today's society, when deep down inside there's a woman screaming, yelling, trying to get out, that's very challenging. So when a person goes through gender transition and when they start reaching that physical congruency and they start actually blossoming into the women that you all are, what happens is there is an enamored period. Now, for some trans women, I call this honeymoon period. This honeymoon period of sexualizing and really being enamored with yourself lasts a short period of time. It's a period of time where trans women essentially they fall in love with themselves, which I think is a beautiful and very important and warranted period of time. What's interesting is that in our society, we have women such as Tina Von Teese, just to name a few. And if you know who Tina Von Teese is, look her up. Marilyn Monroe comes to mind. So when cis women, what some would easily call sexualize themselves, show up in a very alluring, sexy, and sensual way, that's permissible. But the minute a trans woman shows up in sexy, alluring, sensual way, that is not permissible. And that creates more shame and guilt in an individual that already struggles with shame and guilt. One of the reasons why trans women sexualize themselves is because they're starting to feel good about themselves and they're starting to feel confident. And for the first time, a lot of you are starting to really like your bodies. For the first time, a lot of you are really starting to like your face. For the first time, a lot of you are really starting to like your chest. And that's a great thing. It's for the first time that you actually embody the person you have always envisioned yourself to be. When I say honeymoon stage, this enamored stage with yourself lasts for some short period of time, that's because everybody essentially goes through this enamored period. And when you go through this enamored period with yourself, you learn things about yourself. Some of you learn that this is who you are. You are a sexy, alluring woman, and you like to show up as sexy, alluring woman 24/7. Again, Marilyn Monroe, Tina Von Teese. Some of you realize that you like the side of you, but the side of you is reserved. Maybe it's reserved for a special person in your life. Maybe it's reserved for special occasions. For example, when you go out maybe dancing, or you go out somewhere else, or you go out for dinner. So as a process of the honeymoon phase, a lot of you learn what this beautiful sexual sensual part inside of you is telling you about yourself, telling you about your femininity, and then you adjust accordingly based on the person that you are. This honeymoon period, I think, is a very important period for any trans woman to go through. It's a period when you can either learn tremendous amount about yourself by also thinking and grounding yourself in your bodies that you like for the first time. This is also a period during which you can allow yourself to let go of shame and guilt, and when you can allow yourself to feel more confident. Another question that I get asked along this parallel lines about trans women sexualizing themselves is why dress code, the appearance, the physical appearance of clothing is so really borderline provocative, where people tell me it looks like they're working in a strip club. I think part of it is twofold. One, I think for a lot of trans women, a lot of you who are watching this who maybe experienced this, who are older, for a lot of you, your reference point of what femininity looks like is going to be pornography. And this is just the reality for a lot of people. Pornography is a reference point because a lot of you had to see yourself a lot of times in pornography, especially during the times of connecting to yourself, and by watching pornography, then imagining yourselves as women. For a lot, it's not that the reference point is pornography at all, but for a lot of you, it's that as you step into embracing who you are and feeling enamored, you're still learning your style. You're still learning to define and to tune style in accordance to who you are as an individual. And like I said, the tuning button of tuning in your style, your physical appearance, is going to be very subjective. Some continue to be alluring, sexy goddesses throughout their lifetime, constantly showing up that way. Again, I'm thinking about Marilyn Monroe, Tina Von Teese, right? And some make it an element of your lifestyle because there's also another feminine aspect in you. There is a casual girl inside of you, and then there is maybe a more playful girl inside of you. There's more professional woman inside of you, right? So the way I show up on this platform is more professional. The way I will show up on a date with my husband is definitely going to be more sexual, more sexy, more sensual. The way I show up when it's my day off and when I do grocery shopping is very streamed down, no makeup, leggings and a t-shirt. So there's different aspects to myself and they all show up differently. And this is why the spirit is also so instrumental to a lot of you, because it allows you to figure those things out. But this question of why trans women sexualize themselves, the first thing I always come back to people when they ask that is, why not? Why is it that we ask this question of trans women, but we don't ask this question of this beautiful women we idolize who do exactly the same thing? Why is it permissible in one realm and not permissible in another? And what is wrong with people feeling good and confident about themselves and starting to show up in that way? Show me a person on social media that, especially, this is so classic, again, cliche, the weight loss story. So many people on social media who do before and after weight loss, right? If you ever look at their social accounts, first of all, you probably would not see their social account before the weight loss because they did not feel good about themselves. They did not feel good showing up and taking selfies of themselves. But then the minute they drop the weight and they feel amazing, what do you see? You see bikini bathing suits, body shots, body fitted pair of jeans, body fitted dresses. Why? Because that person started to feel confident and amazing about their body. So why should they not show up owning their body, owning how they look, owning how they feel? So I think it's really important to remember that period in every trans woman's life is an essential period for her. And she may embrace that this is who I am. I'm a sexy diva. And every day I'm going to show up as a sexy diva, or I'm a sexy diva occasionally. But this is my answer to the question because a lot of people ask me this. Interestingly, a lot of trans women ask me this. I think there's a lot of projections happening a lot of times in trans community where trans women judge other trans women. Trans women look at other trans women and say, and by the way, I'm not even talking about how cis women judge trans women to living up to some standards, but just within the community, there's a lot of trans women who judge trans women. You are embarrassing the community. You are showing up too sexy. This is not appropriate. This is this and that. And they're putting up gatekeeping. They become police. They become fashion police. They become sexual police. They become sensual police. And to me, all it is projections. And if you are one who projected a lot on other people, ask yourself, is it possible that there's part inside of you that wants to show up in a little bit more sexual, sensual way, but you're not giving yourself that permission because you have internalized some kind of shame or guilt about it, or maybe something else is going on. So comment below, let me know if you went through this honeymoon period. What did you learn about yourself? How did it turn out to you? Did you find out you're sexy diva goddess? Did you find out that's something you show up sometimes? Comment below, let me know, and I will see you all next time. Bye.